Hello, welcome to our video blog. I'm Gerald Coates. Let me introduce you to Jonathan Aitken. Jonathan is famous and infamous. He was a Fleet Street journalist in the 60s and well known. In 1974, he became a Conservative Member of Parliament in Westminster. He became Minister of State for Defence in 1992, and he became Chief Secretary to the Treasury in 1994. But in 1995 he resigned amidst newspaper headlines of sleaze, lies and cover-ups. By 1997, Jonathan was in court suing the Guardian newspaper for the lies and made-up stories, but he lost. But to cover up suspicious behaviour, Jonathan himself lied to the judge and the court, something almost unforgivable. Then, in 1997, he visited Holy Trinity, Brompton, having come out of prison, and enrolled for the Alpha course. After the close, he joined the Holy Spirit weekend, which he was not looking forward to, but God met him in a powerful way, and Jonathan told me, I wept and wept and wept. In 1999, Jonathan was sentenced to 18 months in prison. He was released after 7 months in June 19, and the release date was in the year 2000. Jonathan and I first met when he attended a series of meetings in Marsham Street, Westminster, which I was either leading or speaking at. Later, I visited his office. A few months afterwards, he spoke for me at Leatherhead Leisure Centre, packed to capacity, about his life, his failure, finding Christ, and prison. And then he made a stunning contribution to the annual Pioneer Leaders Conference, and we've been friends ever since. Looking back to possibly being Prime Minister and then being sent to prison, he told me, trouble was, Gerald, I went around saying I was a Christian without actually being one. His writing is brilliant. His biography of Richard Nixon, who is a prison reformer himself, when he spoke at the Pioneer Leaders Conference, Jonathan actually had a number of prisoners he'd led to Christ in the months he was there. Chuck Colson, President Richard Nixon's hatchet man, went through similar events to Jonathan Aitken: fame, position, profile, followed by crime and prison. He also very meaningfully gave his life to Christ in the process and became a prison reformer whose organisation now works around scores of nations. Greatness is not simply achievable through being wealthy, well known, not even gifted. It's often after situations where you have to handle your own failures, disappointments, betrayals, and dealing with your past personal sins. The Apostle Paul is a classic example. He went around arresting, jailing, and executing Christians. But one day God stepped in a powerful way, and he spent the next 2 years studying the Jewish scriptures and finding that Christ is mentioned in every book as one who would come and change lives and change communities. King David is another who had a major lust problem, got a man killed, and then had sex with his wife. And yet God says, David is a man after my own heart. You ask the question, what sort of God is this? Well, he's the God who can reach out to failures like you and me. Some of our failures are private for people like Paul, King David, Jonathan Aitken and others. They became very public. Every letter that Paul ever wrote to the early church begins with the words, the grace of God be with you. And he never forgot it. However long or short his letters were, he finished with celebrating God's grace in lives, and we should do the same. Regarding the Jewish and Christian scriptures, one thing is very clear about our God. God's choices are so often not ones that we would have made ourselves. Just take a look at Jesus' choices from some, if not most, of his apostolic team. We wouldn't have chosen them. But God's grace be on you and with you and we'll speak soon again. Thank you.